Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Bevelak with the Merrimack Valley Chamber. I think you all know Rayanne. Rayanne mentioned Rebecca Fortile as part of our Next Generation Leaders Ambassadors group as well. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. We have a great speaker, George Burch, who will be speaking shortly. I just want to make a couple quick chamber announcements. First is that if you enjoy these young professionals programs, young people in business programs, our next program is going to be taking place. We believe it. We just waiting to confirm the date. October 13th. It's going to be apple picking, cider, and donuts at Smolak Farms. We believe it's going to be 4 to 6 p.m. Once we have that confirmed, we'll get that sent out to all of you, but we're looking forward to it. And again, we believe it's going to be on October 13th. We'll make sure you all get notifications on that once it's confirmed. If you're looking to do some in-person networking, we have a great networking or referral mixer. We're doing it in conjunction with the Salisbury Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be taking place at Joe's Playland. They're going to be giving away $5 vouchers to go play some games as well. And that's this Thursday, 2 days from today, September 16th. We look forward to seeing you there at 5 p.m. We also want to mention that this coming Monday, the 20th, we have a picnic by the pool, networking at noon luncheon at Indian Ridge Golf and Country Club. That's Monday, the 20th. 2 days after, it's an event you don't want to miss out on. It's our Fall Business Expo Health and Wellness Fair. It's going to be taking place at the Burrows in person in Haverhill. It is completely free to attend. Walk through, visit the booths. I know Nick from Aflac will be set up. We're looking forward to seeing him there and everyone else. And again, that's taking place on September 22nd. And again, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. completely free to stop by, visit the booths, check out the product services, say hi to the members of the chamber also. And again, that's all September 22nd. And that morning at 7:30 a.m., we have our mayors and managers breakfast forum. Annual breakfast forum with all the mayors and town managers throughout the Merrimack Valley will be presenting at that breakfast forum. So you don't want to miss out. It's going to be a great day, 2 great events in 1 day at the Burrows in Haverhill on the 22nd. The other thing I want to mention is that Friday, 4 events next week. That Friday, the 24th, another free opportunity for members of the Chamber of Commerce. It's our shop, stay and eat local breakfast forum at Smolak Farms. It's completely free to register. You just got to make sure to register before the program. And the director of Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, Kiko Orell, will be the keynote speaker. We'll be debuting a lot of great things at that program, and just come for a great breakfast as well. And again, that's all next Friday, the 24th. If you're interested in virtual events, we have 2 great virtual events on the next week. On the 28th, we have an HR series, virtual series. And on the 30th, we have a nonprofit virtual series event. Both are free, both are virtual, and again, the 28th and 30th. And I could go on and on and on. I just want to close by saying the annual dinner is going to be taking place on October 4th. Mass Governor Charlie Baker is the keynote speaker. That'll be taking place again on October 4th at the Burrows. So make sure to check it out. And October is going to be loaded as well. We have a public safety breakfast forum, Women in Business Conference with Laurie Drahan. A lot of great networking events. So make sure to check out MerrimackValleyChamber.com. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you to TD Bank for being the series sponsor of these Next Generation Leaders events. Is anyone from here from TD Bank would like to say a few words? I'm not sure if anyone was able to make it today. Well, again, I just want to say thank you to TD Bank. We appreciate being part of the Merrimack Valley Chamber Next Generation Leaders series. And with that being said, I'm now going to turn it over to Rand, who's going to introduce our great speaker today. So thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. If we can ever be of any assistance to you, your business, you know how to reach myself, Rand, or our staff. And I just want to say thank you all for being members of the chamber, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Michael. I'm excited today. Our speaker has over 35 years of leadership and management experience. He's worked at, I believe I'm saying this right, an assisted living center, and at one of my favorite companies, he worked for Hasbro. George has changed the lives of many, including my own, with his proven track record of being an effective leader. He works with individuals and companies through goals and leadership styles to help everyone become the better version of themselves to become the leader that they can be. Let me tell you, before George, I'm not sure I'd be the one introducing him right now. In his free time, George is quite the volunteer. He is a driver for Anna Jake's Hospital, works with many in his community of Salisbury, like at the Carousel, which I wish I had a chance to visit him, and on his local TV channel. He's even received an award for all of his volunteering. So with no further ado, I present George Burch of BurtchTree Advisors.
My, Rayanne, please. I'm still reeling over having to compete with apple picking, cider, and donuts. So we'll have to see how that goes. Hi. So like Rayanne said, my name's George Burch. I've proved myself to be unsuccessful at retiring. I've done it twice, and it's not quite fitting. So I try to keep myself busy. I do leadership training and coaching. I use a process for leadership training. That process has been developed by an organization called Trusted Change Agents. I got this book, Fail Safe Leadership, that kind of goes into that process. If anybody's interested in a copy of that, I'd be more than happy to send it to you. We'll go through the details of that when Rayanne talks about that. Today, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. And I think that, this topic can go in a lot of different directions. Certainly, I'm not going to be able to do a deep dive in the next 52 minutes. So what we're going to try to do is to have an interactive discussion about emotional intelligence. If you have a question, put it in the chat. Rayanne will get to it. Be forewarned, I am a business coach. So there's a pretty good chance that your question will be answered with another question. But that's the way, that's just the way that works. Any comments, you can also just post them in the chat, and Rayanne will kind of facilitate that. I like to defer sometimes to people that are smarter than me. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to show you a video that will kind of kick off. But first, I just want to talk about leadership and leadership as it pertains to today's subject. All of you are leaders or future leaders. And in fail-safe leadership, the definition of leadership is fairly simple. It's about getting results. And I like that definition of leadership, get results. But I've modified it a little bit because I think it's about getting sustainable results. We can beat people into getting stuff done. We can do heroic things to make our quarter or to meet that quota or to hit a deadline. But can we do it over and over again? Are we inspiring people to want to climb that hill again? So my definition is getting sustainable results. And I really believe that in order to do that, we have to have a firm handle on emotional intelligence. And I think that you'll see that picture a little bit clearer as we go through this presentation today. But for now, I'm going to defer to Simon Sinek. And if any of you have seen Simon Sinek's talk on empathy, I apologize because you're going to see 6 minutes more of it again. But it really is a powerful message to leaders. So Rayanne, why don't you play that?
Practicable, learnable skill, and it is something that you work on. It's like a muscle. If you practice it all the days, you will get good at it and you will become a strong leader. If you stop practicing, you will become a weak leader. Like parenting,
Talking about leadership,
everyone has the capacity to be a parent. Doesn't mean everybody wants to be a parent, and doesn't mean everybody should be a parent. Leadership is the same. We all have the capacity to be a leader. Doesn't mean everybody should be a leader, and it doesn't mean everybody wants to be a leader. And the reason is because it comes at great personal sacrifice. Remember, you're not in charge, you're responsible for those in your charge. That means things like when everything goes right, you have to give away all the credit. And when everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility. That sucks, right? It's things like staying late to show somebody what to do. It's things like when something does actually break, when something goes wrong, instead of yelling and screaming and taking over, you say, try again. when the overwhelming pressures are not on them, the overwhelming pressures are on us. At the end of the day, great leaders are not responsible for the job. They're responsible for the people who are responsible for the job. They're not even responsible for the results. I love talking to CEOs and say, what's your priority? And they put their hands on their hips all proudly and say, my priority is my customer. I'm like, really? You haven't talked to a customer in 15 years. There's no CEO on the planet responsible for the customer. They're just not. They're responsible for the people who are responsible for the people who are responsible for the customer. I'll tell you a true story. A few months ago, I stayed at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. It is a wonderful hotel. And the reason it's a wonderful hotel is not because of the fancy beds. Any hotel can go and buy a fancy bed. The reason it's a wonderful hotel is because of the people who work there. If you walk past somebody at the Four Seasons and they say hello to you, you get the feeling that they actually wanted to say hello to you. It's not that somebody told them that you have to say hello to all the customers, say hello to all the guests, right? You actually feel that they care. Now, in their lobby, they have a coffee stand. And one afternoon, I went to buy a cup of coffee, and there was a barista by the name of Noah who was serving me. Noah was fantastic. He was friendly and fun, and he was engaging with me, and I had so much fun buying a cup of coffee, I actually think I gave 100% tip, right? He was wonderful. So as is my nature, I asked Noah, do you like your job? And without skipping a beat, Noah says, I love my job. And so I followed up. I said, what is it that the Four Seasons is doing that would make you say to me, I love my job? And without skipping a beat, Noah said, throughout the day, managers will walk past me and ask me how I'm doing, if there's anything that I need to do my job better. He said, not just my manager, any manager. And then he said something magical. He says, I also work at Caesar's Palace. And at Caesar's Palace, the managers are trying to make sure we're doing everything right. They catch us when we do things wrong. He says, when I go to work there, I like to keep my head under the radar and just get through the day so I can get my paycheck. He says, here at the Four Seasons, I feel I can be myself. Same person, entirely different experience from the customer who will engage with Noah. So we in leadership are always criticizing the people. We're always saying, we've got to get the right people on the bus. I've got to fill my team. I've got to get the right people. But the reality is, it's not the people. It's the leadership. If we create the right environment, we will get people like Noah at the Four Seasons. If we create the wrong environment, we will get people like Noah at Caesar's Palace. It's not the people. And yet we're so quick to hire and fire. You can't hire and fire your children. If your kids are struggling, we don't say, you got to see at school, you're up for adoption. So why is it that when somebody has performance problems at work, why is it that our instinct is to say, you're out? We do not practice empathy. What does empathy look like? Here's the lack of empathy. This is normal in our business world. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into our office and says, your numbers have been down for the third quarter in a row. You have to pick up your numbers, otherwise I can't guarantee what the future will look like. How inspired do you think that person is to come to work the next day? Here's what empathy looks like. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into your office and says, your numbers are down for the third quarter in a row. Are you okay? I'm worried about you. What's going on? We all have performance issues. Maybe someone's kid is sick. Maybe they're having problems in their marriage. Maybe one of their parents is dying. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And of course it will affect performance at work. Empathy is being concerned about the human being, not just their output.
So I think that's a good launching point for a discussion about emotional intelligence. And I think it's a good moment for us all to reflect on what kind of organizations do we want our organization to be? Do we want to be Caesars? Or do we want to be the Four Seasons? All right, so Rayanne, can you put up the first slide?
Yep, before I do that, just a few people joined while we were watching that. If you guys have questions or comments, put them in the chat and I will moderate them to George. Share screen.
So the power of emotional intelligence. Rayanne, you go to the next slide. So what is emotional intelligence? Anybody have any ideas on what your definition of emotional intelligence might be?
That's my chat.
I think so too. I didn't take my allergy pills today. So
I would say, at least for me, George, I know my company is very big recently in launching what we work with called predictive index. And with emotional intelligence, I would say, at least for myself as a leader and manager within my banking industry, it's something of me making sure that my emotions are always in check when it comes to having discussions with my teams, customers, whether that be, a coaching or even just onboarding someone. Really knowing, where am I? Am I having maybe a personal type of situation that could interfere with that conversation? Or, is it maybe something stressful at work going on? So I think really taking that step back and kind of making sure that my emotions are in the right place and that I am ready to engage in a full conversation that is going to be impactful and proactive.
Emotions in check. That's great. Anybody else?
You'll be evaluating the energy of the people around you and adjusting your own energy accordingly to make sure that you can achieve what your objective is for both you and the team.
Energy of the people around you. You guys are doing too good. You probably don't even need me. I mean, you're already knocking it out of the park. Anybody else have any thoughts about emotional intelligence?
Yeah, I do. It's who you are and the awareness of how you affect others around you.
That's great. And how you affect others around you. So the definition that we work with here is your ability to understand and manage your emotions impacts your ability to lead. Now, researchers always have great numbers. This one says 75% of a person's ability to succeed is linked to successfully understanding emotional intelligence. What does that mean? I don't know. I guess if I knew exactly what that meant, I'd have a bigger desk. Travis Bradberry is somebody that has written on emotional intelligence. He talks about the 4 domains. We're going to get into that a little bit about the 4 domains of emotional intelligence. They are under 2 primary competencies, personal and social competence. And I really like the fact that even in the couple of comments that we got, that people recognize that this is a 2-way street. Okay, emotional intelligence isn't just about you. Okay, it's also understanding your environment. It's understanding the people that you're dealing with. It's having empathy, like Simon Sinek talked about, for what they might be going through in their life. Let's flip the slide, Rayanne. So here's the money slide. Every presentation has a money slide. Well, this is the one here. So this is Bradbury's model. We have social competence, we have personal competence. Personal is us, social is the world that we live in. And what I see and what I do. So your personal competence for what you see is self-awareness. What you do is self-management. Social competence and relationship management. So just because we see something and understand it, if our actions don't match that, then we are not showing a high level of emotional intelligence. What would you think would be the competencies and what's the functions might appear in your organization when these competencies don't exist? So if we don't have people in our organization, or if you don't have good self-awareness and good self-management and good social awareness and good relationship management, what do you think some of the consequences of that might be?
Bad work culture.
Culture, for sure.
You heard the guy say in the video, he felt like he could be himself one place and not be himself the other place. So it's almost like you become a robot and have no emotions at work, if there's nothing going on there.
No emotion, no motivation to do a great job, right? Any other thoughts?
Frustration, conflict.
Conflict, for sure, right? when we think about culture, right? Culture is very much about emotional intelligence. I'm a New York Giant football fan. I know that that's not a popular position to take in this part of the world, but I have great admiration for the New England Patriots. I mean, I think they should be a Harvard Business Study review. And I think Bill Belichick has pretty high emotional intelligence. He's also created a culture where if somebody doesn't want to adhere to that culture, what happens? They pay him more money? No, they send him walking. Right? So, when you think about emotional intelligence and we think about what Simon Sinek was telling us, all right, it's very much about making people want to do a great job. And in order to do that, we have to understand what motivates them. In another part of that talk, Simon Sinek talks about how we promote people. If we have 6 people all doing a job and the boss quits, and we're going to promote one of those people to do the job, which person are we going to promote? Anybody have any guesses?
The one that's most motivated, making the best numbers. I mean. that
Well,
seems
yeah,
like-
I mean, probably not necessarily the one that's most motivated, but probably the one that does the job best,
Yeah,
right? Do we evaluate what their management skills are? All they're going to be able to do is know that everybody doing the job doesn't do it as well as they do. Is that going to be motivational? When we start talking about emotional intelligence, I think we all focus on the top 2 boxes, right? Because that's what we can control. That's our human tendency, is we control our self-awareness. We control our self-management. The discipline that we need to give ourselves is that we need to put as much emphasis on our social awareness, on our relationship management. And that gets into understanding the people that you're working with, having empathy for what they have. That doesn't mean that when somebody's going through troubling times at home, that we got to give them a break and not expect them to do their job. That's not it at all. But we have to work and figure out what can we do, okay, to help them navigate whatever it is that's bothering them, so that we enable them to do a great job and to be part of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. All right, let's flip, Brian. So motivation. Motivation is really what Simon Sinek was talking about, right? Okay, we all want to have that guy that's working at the Four Seasons working for us. None of us wants to have that guy that's working at Caesars working for us. So what's the motivation? Okay, the motivation is what fuels emotional intelligence to run deeper. Okay, what is motivating you, okay, to want to have a better understanding of how your emotions impact the things that you do? What is fueling you to understand how understanding the situation of others is going to fuel how you react to them? It provides the necessary motivation, provides the necessary fuel we need to achieve our goals. And just making a difference in the life balance, peace of mind, and self-actualization. Okay, believe me when I tell you, I mean, I've been there. I've been where you are. Okay, it's not all about numbers. Are any of you in HR, involved with HR departments?
Yes,
Any
I am.
any of you ever seen a survey on employee satisfaction?
Yep.
Huh? Yeah, and you ever seen one with money at the top of the list?
Nope.
Because I never have. No, there's so many other things that people are motivated by. And as leaders, it's important for us to understand what everybody in our charge is motivated by. Because we're going to be more effective if we can get to that level of emotional intelligence where our social awareness helps us understand what is motivating the people that work for us so that we can fuel into that motivation to help them do a great job. All right, next slide, Fran. So more of Goldman, a passion for work for reasons that go beyond the external drive for knowledge, utility, surroundings, others, power, or methodology are based on the internal drive or propensity to pursue goals with energy or persistence. I'm not that smart a guy. Can somebody help me understand what that means? Come on, I got future leaders here. Somebody's got to be able to explain this to me. Pursue goals with energy and persistence. Show of hands, who has goals? Who has written goals?
I don't raise my hand, I'm in trouble.
Who looks at their goals on a daily basis? Huh? Energy and persistence. We'll talk about goals. We'll talk. Delia, you get it. Delia, you get today's first categirl.
So it's probably about making that additional effort to really get to know your teams as best as you can and find out what motivates them, not just at work, but outside of work as well, and how they're going to be able to achieve that and working towards the mission of the organization.
That's a really good point. You know, after I retired from Hasbro, I spent 3.5 years, my wife and I, as live-in managers at independent living retirement communities. And my clientele was old. Okay. But you know what they knew? They knew who cared about them and who didn't. Okay. You know, I mean, and you can't fake that. You can't fake empathy. That's a great point. So if you're and your team are motivated to make a significant difference beyond what the organization does, that attitude will be part of the organization's culture. Okay. Again, going back to Simon Sinek, wouldn't all of us want the kind of culture that he described at that Four Seasons hotel? Wouldn't all of us want everybody that works for us to come in and want to do a great job because they're treated with respect there and they're valued? Okay, that's the social awareness part of emotional intelligence. Let's flip the slide. Okay, so emotions and feelings. Okay, you know, how often do we talk about that at work? Organizations have historically shied away from emotions and feelings. I worked for Hasbro for 39.5 years. Okay, people that were emotional got the black mark. But embracing emotions positively impacts an organizational results. Whether we like it or not, people have two parts of their life, personal and professional. Who has ever worked with somebody that doesn't have work-life balance? Or even worse, worked for somebody that doesn't have work-life balance and has the expectation that you're going to have the same devotion to work that they have? How much fun is that?
Not fun.
So even though corporate America would like it, two can't be disconnected. So I need everybody to take out a piece of paper. Everybody got a piece of paper? Pen? All right, I want you to write down something in your life that is aggravating you, irritating you, troubling you. I am not going to ask anybody to share this. So this is between you and your piece of paper. Okay, just write down something that is really troubling you right now. Everybody got that done? Okay. Everybody good? Anybody need more time? All right, now I want you to take that piece of paper and I want you to crumple it up into a real tight ball. And I want you to throw it over your shoulder.
Oh, that's too much fun.
Huh? Everybody do that?
I think Megan's is gonna bounce back at her in the truck.
Now let me ask you a question. Does your problem go away?
Nope.
Of course not.
Did that solve your problem?
No.
Did it make you feel any? Did it make you feel any better about your problem?
No.
So what do you
No.
think? What do you think the impact is when we see somebody that might be going through something in their personal life, and we tell them, "Well, you need to check that at the door." You know, you can't be bringing that kind of baggage to work.
I think it makes it seem like their problems or what they may be going through isn't a big deal, and that it's just something like you're saying you should just switch off when you walk in the door, and there really isn't any type of empathy or emotion coming from that if that's how your manager and or your leader is kind of approaching it for you.
And conversely, how do you think people would react if you as a manager showed genuine interest in what was troubling them and tried to help them figure out a way that they could compartmentalize that, at least so that they can be successful at their job? Do you think that would be motivational? You think that that might help
Absolutely.
performance? As an effective leader, you think that might help you get sustainable results?
I would agree that it would.
Something to think about. Let's flip it up, Rayanne.
Yep, and I just, a comment came in. We have a few people in here that have full-time jobs and part-time jobs. So at her full-time job, she took the time to kind of get to know each of the team and kind of learn how they operate. So kind of understanding that there's emotions involved, and also took the time to include everybody in what they do versus just only talking to management.
All right, so those are good comments. Thank you.
Hey, George,
So-
just one thing on that too, just in my experience, I think some managers kind of try to oversimplify it and say that, I don't want to get involved in what's going on in your personal life. And, there might be some, human resource ramifications over there. But I think you make a good point in that it's not about, trying to resolve what's going on in one of your employees' personal lives. Like you said, you're trying to help them figure out a way to compartmentalize it so they can still, effectively execute what they need to get done in the workplace and still be able to provide for their family.
I think that's a really good point, and I think it goes back to something else that Simon Sinek was talking about. That people want to feel safe. Okay, I mean, safety is an important thing for people. They want to feel safe, and going back to the examples again, Noah felt very safe at the Four Seasons. Did he feel safe at Caesars? No, kept his head down, right? We want people that are going to charge the hill. We don't want the ones that are going to stay in the back lines. My boss used to have a saying, used to tell us to carry the wounded and shoot the stragglers. That might be a little extreme, but I think the message is relevant. So self and social awareness, having the ability to recognize that emotions and feelings come from inside you. Okay, I'll confess. Sometimes I have very, very low emotional intelligence, especially when somebody cuts me off. Okay. All right. And I'm sitting at my steering wheel and my fists are clenched and my temples are bulging and I'm screaming and my wife is yelling at me, shut up, you're going to get me shot. Okay. Did that person cause that? That person has absolutely no impact on the way I react to things. Absolutely none.
You control your own emotions.
All he did all he did was did something, and my reaction to that is all about me. Emotions are not created externally. You and only you can control how you handle your emotions. We are so quick to say, yeah, I got pissed off, but so-and-so did. Okay. How many of you ever heard a song that made you cry? Song didn't make you cry. My favorite is, yeah, I went to the gym, but I felt intimidated. You felt intimidated by what? By a bunch of brick and mortar and a bunch of inanimate metal machines? I mean, you didn't feel intimidated by the gym. That's what you allowed your emotions to do. Once we understand that we are in better control, we are in total control, then we'll begin to better control our emotions personally and professionally. Okay, so if there's one takeaway from today, okay, this is it. Okay, it's all about you. Okay, I mean, I firmly believe that everybody that's on this call is capable of great things. Okay, you're capable of great things. You can set goals for yourself, accomplish those goals, celebrate when you accomplish those goals. Okay, but it all starts with understanding that you and you alone are in charge of your emotions, and you alone are in charge of your destiny. Okay, I guarantee you one thing. Everybody talks about death and taxes as only being the only guarantees in life. I'm going to give you the third guarantee. That in the morning, when you're combing or brushing your hair, you are looking at the person that has the most vested interest in your success. Okay, and that is undeniable. Okay, and understanding that, understanding what you're capable of doing, that is the most important part of the self-awareness part of emotional intelligence. Flip it. Self-management is understanding that another person's emotional response is 100% about them and 0% about you. How many times have you ever done something and had somebody react to it and felt bad about what you did? Sometimes we do that. But at the end of the day, we can't live in a world where that guy that cut me off, well, he didn't really make me mad. I got mad because of that. Well, the converse of that is true also. Okay, and it's also having the strength and courage to mentally step out of an emotional moment. Okay, my favorite is email. How many of you ever hit the send button and had a little bit of remorse? Right? I have a 24-hour rule on email. If somebody gets my self-awareness heightened and I decide to reply to that, 24 hours before I hit the send button. Just to make sure. What's the mental pauses that you put in so that you don't immediately react to something, so that you give yourself the time to really think about it? To really think about what is the right reaction to that? What is the reaction to that that's going to help me achieve the organization's goals? What's the reaction to that that's going to help me achieve my goals? And we can all relate to this, how unmanaged emotions have a crazy way of accelerating a situation. Okay, I mean, we have all been in a situation where we've seen fire and tried to put it out with gasoline. And we know exactly how that works. Any questions or comments right now as we talk about, self relationship management? Any thoughts? Go ahead, Frederico.
Yeah, you mentioned a tool there for email. What do you do when it's something more short notice, right? So that guy that cut you off, for example.
Well, I'm working on that. Does anybody have any thoughts on what they do when somebody does something that heightens their self-awareness?
Hey, I'm a pretty fiery guy, and I have something. I'm going to be 40 next year, and it's something I've had to work for over the years. And whether it's been, in my career at grad school, my personal life, marriage with kids, and things like that. But it's super tough. But I mean, if you're a really goal-driven person, just always keeping the objective in your mind, and you have several objectives throughout the day. And you just mentioned it literally 3 minutes ago, George, is, well, what is this objective that I'm trying to achieve at this exact moment? And is the way that I am feeling emotionally or I'm about to respond emotionally going to help me get closer to that objective or further away?
Any other thoughts? That's very good. Thank you for that.
And I think too, because Federico's point that like sometimes things need a more immediate response, but you don't want to be fiery. And actually Delia is kind of saying the same thing, is like, I may type it up, but then just walk away from it and like take a breath, or like she's saying, grab a glass of water or tea, go back and reread it after having just taken that breath. And then kind of think of yourself in the other person's shoes. Obviously we don't know everything that's going on their end, but just taking that moment before you hit send to walk away and then reread.
I have
Anybody else?
one, not email related, but I used to have a boss that would get excitable very easily, and I could never figure out what his thing was, currency, whatever you want to call it. And it turns out someone told me the trick was, because the boss was very emotional. It was his way or the highway, and that was that. So the first thing we had to say to him all the time was, hey, we're definitely going to go that route. Not a problem. I understand what you're saying. No problem. And then the boss was actually listening after that, because he wasn't wondering, is Ken going to do this? Is he going to actually do this? He's not listening. So if I sort of self-assured him ahead of time, I'm going to do this. Hey, I also have a couple ideas. And that was my way of presenting, I don't want to call it opposition, but, other ideas that would complement, in quotes, what he was asking for. It sort of diffused his emotional response up front, because he knew I was going to do what he wanted. But then I was able to present my ideas and he was actually listening. So just something to think about in the background.
That's actually, and that's a good example of high emotional intelligence. And hopefully we're going to all walk away from this today with a heightened awareness of how we channel our emotions. And I hope you'll all take time when you do something good to pat yourself on the back. Okay. To me, one of the most important aspects of behavior modification and goal achievement is celebrating. We don't spend enough time celebrating. We all get so focused, and we're also worried about failure that we don't take time to celebrate success. So when you do something good, celebrate it and remember it, right? One of the greatest things we can do is to remember things that went right and try to replicate them. And everybody should look in the chat section, because people are putting some great ideas about what they do when their self-awareness temperature starts to rise a little bit. Okay, Rayan, let's flip to the next slide. So here are some characteristics of high emotional intelligence. Embrace change versus fearing it. I love change, even though my assessment says I don't. I love it. Okay, I always found change to be exciting. And when you work in a company like Hasbro, where every the first day of every quarter is like your life before has ended and now you're on a new life. Change is a hard thing to really implement, but I always really embraced it. Being self-aware. Strive to lead a balanced life. You know, I'm not the kind of person that would ever want to try to impart my life philosophies on somebody. You know, I think that we are all amazing machines, and you know, we all have different motivations. But you know, we've all seen too many people that, you know, it's not good to be altered in either way, to be too far in either way. People that don't have any kind of work-life balance, whether it be they have no personal life, so it's all about work, or the opposite, that they're so consumed in their personal life that they can't do an effective job. Neither one of them are healthy for an organization. And neither one of them are probably going to achieve the goals that they want in their professional or their personal life. Be emphatic. Unfortunately, this is easier said than done, you know, because, you know, I'm going to guess that most of the people on this call want to be successful. I'm going to guess that most of the people on this call do things in order to help themselves become more successful. And I'm going to guess that most of us get frustrated when people don't meet our expectations of what we want them to do or what we think they should do. Before we react to that, take that pause and ask yourself the question, well, what could it be? Okay, if you can make the people that work for you believe that you care about them, that you care about the whole them, you don't just care about the job they do, you care about them, you're going to be on the road to being a successful leader. And you're going to be on the road to having high emotional intelligence. Be curious, open-minded, and inquisitive. Okay, you know, none of us knows everything. I've learned stuff from you today. I mean, I hate Zoom meetings like this. I would love for us to be sitting around a room. I'd have charts out. We'd be writing down all kinds of stuff, walking away with all kinds of ideas. Okay, so be open-minded, be inquisitive, be gracious, be grateful. And to me, the most important thing, be happy. Okay, happy is an elusive thing, right? If you can figure out the formula to happiness, please bottle it and call George Burch up to be your business partner when we go start selling it. Okay, okay, because I want the trading places ending. I want to sit on an island with you, drinking a nice tropical drink while we look at our $40 million boat out in the harbor. It's not that easy. But if you can figure it out, hold on to it. Next slide, Ryan. Here's some characteristics of low emotional intelligence: that you're unable to control your emotions. Our example earlier of the boss that liked to scream and yell. Ambiguous towards others' feelings. Struggle to maintain relationships. Can be emotionally inappropriate. My favorite, trivialize emotions. How many of us have the boss that made fun of us, made fun of people when they were having issues, right? How many of you have seen that? I mean, how productive is that? And they are personally difficult to read. I don't know about that one sometimes. Sometimes they kind of wear it on their sleeves and you can see it. But I think when you look at the characteristics of high emotional intelligence, characteristics of low emotional intelligence, you can see the things that we need to do in order for us to strive to have high emotional intelligence. Next slide. So, what can we do? Observe your own emotions without trying to fix them. What does that mean?
Take a second to kind of like see how you respond to people or things or places or whatever it is, before you're trying to say, hey, I need to fix this. How about just watch what you're doing?
Right. Observing your own emotions. Remember, our self-awareness is a combination of what we see and what we do. Okay, so by observing your own emotions, without trying to fix them, is that you're going to stay in the what you see. Right? What do you see? Right? Get an understanding of the way that you look at the world. Okay, get an understanding of the things that you react to in a positive or negative way. Ask yourself, was your positive reaction to that warranted? Ask yourself, was your negative reaction to that warranted? Don't try to fix it. Try to understand it first. Megan wrote, it's taking a moment to recognize what you are feeling and appreciating the emotion for what it is. That's great, right? Start observing how you react to others. How many of you go on job interviews? Anybody ever been on a job interview? What do you do in the car on the way home from your job interview?
Think about what went right and what went wrong.
Yeah, think about what question, geez, I wish I answered this that way, or right? Why don't we ever do that when we are evaluating how we interact with people? Try that once in a while. Try that when you have a tough interaction with somebody, sitting down and giving yourself a self-assessment. Asking yourself, could I have handled that better? Recognize recurring patterns in yourself and others. Commit to being more open and accepting of others' perspectives. You know, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a big topic now. Right? I mean, we've all heard it. Our companies might be doing things on that. To me, one of the tenets of that is a very simple concept. Create an organization that ideas rule the day, not whose mouth they came out of. And in order to do that, you need to have an open mind that anybody is capable of having a great idea. Examine how you react in stressful situations. Right? I mean, stress changes the way that we act. That's part of being human. Okay? So again, when you get in a stressful situation, when the stress has relieved, go back and evaluate. How did I do? What would I do again if I had to do over again? And probably the most important thing that we're going to walk away from today is take responsibility for your actions. Okay? All the time that I had professionals working for me at Hasbro. When I went to work for Holiday and I was hiring high school kids to serve dinner at night, it was a whole new experience for me. And I would tell them that I would tell them that I am the easiest person that you're ever going to work for. Because there's only one thing that you can do that will really, really get me annoyed with you. And they would look at me wide-eyed, expecting something profound. And I would tell them, the only thing that you can do that will really piss me off is if you don't make any mistakes. And the looks on their face was priceless. Because then I would tell them, if you don't make any mistakes, that means you're not doing anything. And I can't have that. You know, we all make mistakes. You know, I mean, we can't do everything right. I mean, you know, we're not computers. You know, we don't have a error margin. But when we do screw up, take responsibility for it. Own it. Fix it. Don't do it again. Okay, but if you want to have high emotional intelligence, you need to understand the great Harry Truman. What did he say? The buck stops here. Okay, so when you do something that you're regretting a little bit, don't spend your time thinking about who caused that. You caused it. Accept it. Live with it. Fix it. Next slide. Done. We actually have an assessment on emotional intelligence that you can take. Kicks out about a 50-page report or something. I'd be willing to give that to anybody that's interested. Rayanne will include my email address in this, and if you're interested in getting a read on what your emotional intelligence is, it's a pretty robust assessment. I don't know how many of you taken assessments in the past. This one cuts in a little bit deeper than most. It's not your normal disc. It will give you a bunch of stuff that you're good at, some things that you can work at to improve your emotional intelligence. I also, if anybody's interested in fail-safe leadership, I'll be happy to send that to you. If Rayanne will just send me an email with your information on that. Does anybody have any questions or comments? We got about 2 minutes left, and be forewarned that I do mostly answer questions with questions. So
His favorite question is why.
yes, it is. I like why. Comments, questions?
George, I agree. Taking the responsibility for your own actions pretty much ties everything else together. Because if you don't, take responsibility for yourself, you can't correct the mistakes you made. You always try to find a reason why. You can't fix your own, emotions after that. So I think that's probably the biggest point I took away is, you always have to take responsibility so that everything else can even out at the end.
Rayanne, is there any way you can capture the chat?
Yep, I'll send that all over to you.
Okay, that's great. So listen, from my perspective, I'd like to thank you, all of you, because this isn't a topic that you want to go to a lecture on. Okay, this isn't 4 + 4 = 8. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. A lot of this presentation was based on the work of somebody, Goldman's done a lot of work on emotional intelligence, but this is a topic that's open for interpretation. And the way that we master things like this is learning from each other. Anybody that decides they want to take the assessment, I'll spend a half an hour with you going over it. But I think that as we look at the world of tomorrow, okay, I one of the things that I struggle with when I think about things like emotional intelligence and I think about diversity, equity, inclusion is what's the measure? The organizations of tomorrow that are not addressing these issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion and emotional intelligence are not going to be able to retain and get top employees. Okay, that's just a fact. Okay, when I'm long gone and you people are running the world, your organizations, if they're not addressing these issues, you're not going to get the top talent. And when you do get the top talent, when they recognize that your organization isn't addressing these things, they're not going to stay. Okay, we're at the groundswell of a movement that it's not going to be about how much you get paid and how big my stock options and that. It's going to be what kind of inclusive organization are you creating so that ideas rule the day, not the position or the whose son that is or whatever the other things that would go into that. So I hope that everybody, when we do these presentations, I have very modest goals. I hope everybody can walk away with one thing. If you can walk away with one thing, then I feel happy that the hour that we spent together was well spent. So I thank you all for participating, and that's all I got.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to speak to our members today. We really appreciate it. It was a great presentation. I think everyone is able to take something back and apply it to their own lives and their own business. So thank you again for that. I want to thank everyone for joining us also today. Thank TD Bank for the sponsor of this program. And again, this Thursday, 2 days from today, we'll have our mixer at Salisbury at Joe's Pill End. I'm going to make you a special offer. If you email me within the next hour, you'll be our guest for that program. So just a way to say thank you for joining us the next hour. Email me, you'll be our guest. So thank you all for joining us. Again, the expo is next Wednesday, September 22nd, free to attend, free to visit, free parking in there. And then a whole host of other programs coming up also. So make sure to check out your calendar. You'll get those emails shortly, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And then last thing is October 13th is our next Generation Leaders program. Will be taking place at Small Ark Farms, and we look forward to seeing you there. So thank you all. Thank you, George, again, and have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, George. Great seeing everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.